lesson for you here. I like to call it Over the Sippy and Through the Woods. The explorations of Lewis and Clark. Of course, you've got Lewis and Clark who were exploring this new land known as the Louisiana Purchase that was purchased by Thomas Jefferson, and that's what we got going on there. Um, yeah. So, anyway, we're gonna go ahead and keep going through this thing. First off, here's where it all starts with. It's this guy here. His name's Napoleon. All right, Napoleon Bonaparte. He's a French guy who's trying to take over Europe. Quite frankly, he tries a few different times. People say, "Oh, Napoleon syndrome, short man syndrome." Right? He wasn't really all that short, to be honest with you, compared to his time. But anyway, he was at war with England, and he was running out of money, so he had to do something to make money. All right, France had this land in the New World, and it was a very large portion of land in the New World. And he thought, well, I have no use for it. We're not going over there anytime soon. I'll sell it, and then I can get the money that I need to do this. Ben Franklin was actually the Secretary of State. He was in France at the time. He was the guy who made this deal go down. He reported back to Thomas Jefferson, and that's kind of where this thing gets going. Like I said, Napoleon didn't have the funds, so naturally, what do? You sell something, right? Need money? Sell your car. Need money? Sell your bike. Need money? Sell candy bars. Whatever, right? So you sell something to try to make some money so that you can buy something else or pay for something else or fund something else. That's what Napoleon's doing, all right? Now, that said, I think he missed out because the land that he sold includes the entire great state of Iowa. Let's see what they have to say about that. Anyway, like you can see there, Napoleon missed out on a little bit. There's actually even more of them. You can check them out online if you want. But here, Napoleon is around. We'll watch some of those another time, maybe. But as I said, you've got this thing in the green here called the Louisiana Purchase. As you can see, it includes Iowa right there. It includes all of, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 states and parts of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 states for sure there. As you can see, that's Louisiana Purchase there in the green. So it's a huge chunk of land. If you compare it against the tan on the right there, it basically doubles the size of the country. That's what we had before. This is basically from the Mississippi River extending over the Rocky Mountains and into the Rocky Mountains, to be honest with you. So we're not talking about a small piece of money. So 530 million acres of land, $15 million. 2 cents an acre, or yeah, 2.8 cents an acre. That's huge. That's basically 3 cents an acre. In today's money, that's about, let's see, down here, we lost our cursor there, but it's about $236 million is what we're talking about. $236 million in today's money, or 42 cents an acre. Folks, that's unbelievable. We have land in this area that is selling for $8,000, $10,000 an acre, and we're talking 42 cents an acre. We got an absolute steal on this land. So, good move. Kudos to Thomas Jefferson for pulling the trigger on that one. Give a nod to him in the corner there, in his picture in the corner if you want. All right. As we continue on with this story, but here's the thing. We don't know that it's legal. And this really is like, what? Wait, huh? So France claimed that land during the Age of Exploration, but they supposedly gave it up to Spain right before the 7 Years' War, the French and Indian War. And then, of course, Napoleon, being the guy that he is, claims that it's his, and decides to sell it. So basically, he sold a piece of land that he didn't really own to a country that was there, obviously, but the land was never paid to Spain, or nothing was ever paid to Spain to get it back. So it's a little bit fishy when you start looking at all this. But either way, now you got the Louisiana Purchase. So good story on that one. As we said, it nearly doubles the size of the United States. It actually extends down into Texas there and parts of New Mexico. I mean, this is a huge, huge tract of land. All right. So again, like we said, now we've got the land. All right, and there's old TJ in the middle there. I don't. Let's see here. At this point, he has lost his wife. He's moved on to Sally Hemings, if you're wondering. But anyway, he hires these two people, this Lewis and Clark. Actually, he hires this Lewis. I think it's Meriwether Lewis. No, Meriwether. Either way, we'll look it up later. We look up this guy, and he hires Lewis and basically says, "Hey, I need this explored. Can you put together an expedition?" So Lewis says, "Fine, I need Clark." Now, Lewis is a very technical person, all right? Very good at land and all that stuff. Clark, he's more survival type stuff. I mean, he's interested in science, but Jefferson really wasn't looking for people that were like uber scientists because they wouldn't cover any ground. If you put a scientist out, to study a new area, they're going to get in one location and they're going to spend 3 years there because there's that much to learn about that one area. Jefferson wants to find out what is out in this purchase area. Okay, what kind of land do we have? What kind of resources are there? What can we do with all this stuff that we just acquired? So he wants to get people that are a little more technical, a little more survivalist. So they're actually surveyors, is what they are. People with some wilderness experience. They know how to live in the woods, but enough of a science background to understand what's important to keep track of. Very good record keepers. So in May of '04, they actually set out from the St. Louis, Missouri area, and I joked that this is maybe what it would have been like. I will tell you this: their boat was much larger than this. It was you would call it a small ship if it was an ocean-going vessel. But anyway, it was much larger, and they had more than just the two of them. But here's kind of a funny take. We'll see what was going on.
Lewis? You're kind of splashing me right now.
Oh. Do you want to sit in front? So I thought you wanted to be in the back.
No, I'm fine back here. Just so long as you're not splashing me.
Okay, sorry. I am just trying to paddle kind of hard so we can get across the Louisiana territory before winter. Is that okay?
Are you saying that I'm not paddling hard?
No. I'm not saying that.
Okay. Because I am. I'm just not splashing everywhere.
I wouldn't know because you wanted to be in the back, so...
Whether or not that's accurate for Lewis and Clark, I don't really know. I think they actually got along pretty well, but we might see another appearance of those guys here in a little bit. Of course, they traveled up the Missouri River, which would take them from St. Louis across Missouri, as you can see there, up the western border of Iowa and across the Rockies, and eventually they're going to make it all the way to the Pacific. They do a little twisting and winding. But we did not own the land all the way to the Pacific. They got to the farthest west portion up in Montana there, but they continued on regardless, and they did actually, like I said, make it all the way to the Pacific. They both saw the Pacific before returning, so there's something to be said about that. Yeah. Oh, we'll keep going here. Oh, here we go. As you can see, you've got the purchase. And you can see the route that they took up the river. They were still looking for that Northwest Passage is what it was. All right, spent the winter there at Fort Clatsop. They split up for a little bit to try to cover more ground. They came back, and then they joined back up there, as you can see, and then finally returned. It must have been 1805, not 1803, and you can see what states are now involved there. Okay. All right. Again, they did not travel alone. They had 32 people that were with them. Everybody survived except for one guy, some guy by the name of Sergeant Charles Floyd. If you're wondering, think about it. Floyd County, Charles City. Who do you think they might be named after? Sergeant Charles Floyd. Yeah. Floyd County, Charles City. It's not a coincidence. Also, Sergeant Bluff. If you've heard of that, or Sergeant Bluff Luton is a school district that's out there, but Sergeant Bluff is a town up right on the river. Guess what? Guess who it's named after? Guess who's buried in Sergeant Bluff? That's right, Sergeant Charles Floyd. So, the one casualty of that trip, that's the case, is what's going on there. So, there's that. You can see it right there. There's Sergeant Bluff on the western Iowa, really close to the tri-state corner out there. All right, we'll keep it going on here. Now, they did have another person with them later on, especially once they got farther into the wilderness. Somebody by the name of Sacagawea. And of course, if you watched Night at the Museum, you know who Sacagawea is. Or if you just know who Sacagawea is, you know who Sacagawea is. It was slow traveling. They didn't exactly know where they're going. So having some type of a guide, it says Indiana guide. I apologize. It's not an Indiana guide. It's an Indian guide. She was a Shoshone. But it's good to have somebody who knows the land. And in her case, she could interpret. She could speak to Native American tribes that came in contact with the Lewis and Clark expedition, and where there could have been problems with groups, Native American groups getting upset with them being in the land, or saying, well, what are you doing here? She was able to interpret and get that taken care of. And here we go again. We'll hear from Lewis and Clark again.
Lewis and Clark, a fearless pair, they braved a venture grand. Lewis and Clark, they journeyed through this great American land.
Did you say something?
No.
Sounded like you said something.
Maybe I was just sighing. I guess I didn't expect to be spending so much time on horseback since you said, we'd be traveling on the river.
I guess I just had no way of knowing because the territory hasn't been mapped. That's sort of what we're doing.
Yeah. I know what we're doing.
Do you guys think that we should be looking for a place to make camp for the night?
Yes, that makes sense to me, Sacagawea, but I think Clark is pretty fixated on going till after sundown.
Actually, I'm not. I think we should make camp soon.
Okay, so you're changing your plan.
Lewis and Clark, they journeyed through this great American land.
All right, so again, a little interesting. Is that accurate? Probably not, but it is funny to look at. We got probably see those guys one more time. Again, this is a scientific trip that was meant to discover what was in that new territory, plants, animals, and other resources. Some of the stuff that's there is actually still around. When we go to Thomas Jefferson's Monticello, I believe the elk head or elk set is actually from the Lewis and Clark expedition. They brought that back with them, so you'll see that is original. And there are some examples in the Smithsonian Natural History Museum in Washington D.C. as well. Some of those are things that came from the Lewis and Clark expedition as well. So some of those samples are still around. And again, what we were able to find out geographically and scientifically was huge. And again, it also got us contact with Native Americans. Ultimately, that's going to be an issue later in American history. But as we were starting things out, and trying to build relationships with those Native Americans, it established that right away. One more video for you.
Lewis and Clark, a fearless pair, they braved a venture grand. Lewis and Clark, they journeyed through this great American land.
Hey, Clark. Would you mind blowing your candle out? Just because I'm trying to get some sleep so we can start at a decent hour tomorrow.
Sorry. It's just that it's pretty hard to sleep in the same tent as your pet because of the smell.
Yeah, it's not my pet. It's a specimen. It's called the prairie dog. I'm planning to send it back to Thomas Jefferson.
Cool. Well, we should do that just because it's farting all night and it really stinks in here.
Yeah, it's just that it would die outside because of the cold.
Totally. And then who would eat all our rations?
Would you guys mind keeping it down? I am trying to get some sleep for our early start tomorrow.
Oh, sorry, Sacagawea. Is it the light that's keeping you up, or is it the talking?
It's the talking.
So the light's okay.
Yes.
Great. We will definitely keep it down.
And the dog is not bothering you, Sacagawea? The dog is not bothering you? Sacagawea?
Lewis and Clark, they journeyed through this great American land.
All right, so there you go. One last thing there. Lewis and Clark, of course, return as heroes. They did not have the passive-aggressive fights that are portrayed in the videos, but again, I find them funny, so we show them. They are remembered in a lot of different ways with memorials and markers, including a museum that's dedicated to them right underneath the arch in St. Louis. Maybe some of you have been there and have seen that museum. There's markers all over the place, memorials everywhere. There's the Lewis and Clark national whatever trailway type thing that you can follow. You can drive and sort of follow their path. And obviously, what we gained knowledge-wise from their exploration is invaluable to the country, absolutely huge. And, it was a good thing that we had that. So, all right. Thus ends the instructional portion of this, at least of the video. Now you can move on to the next step.